Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Hi.
Thank you for meeting us and sharing your views on this seminar. How valuable this seminar would be for the field of arbitration, and what is your opinion on the quality of the panelists who took part in this seminar?
I think seminars such as this in law schools is very important because, I like your topic, the change of phase of the arbitration in India and generally in Asia for that matter. Because arbitration is a field which is developing, very quickly, and it's important for the lawyers, especially the younger generation of lawyers, to be involved in the arbitral process. And I guess at a level when you are in law school as students, if you have a very good basic knowledge of the arbitral process and the various issues facing the international arbitration community at large and the legal issues, I guess it will contribute to a great extent to your knowledge base. And tomorrow when, it was a good mix of not just students but also practitioners and some in-house counsel. So I guess that kind of mix is very valuable for the students to hear from people who are experts in their own field and take back this knowledge base with them, and I'm sure it'll be very useful when they start careers, especially if they're going to be practicing in the dispute resolution arena, and even as corporate lawyers, because a lot of students choose to go to corporate practice and some choose litigation. Even as a corporate lawyer, it's extremely important for you to know how the arbitral process works, because when you are going to be negotiating contracts and you're going to be drafting contracts, you typically have a dispute resolution clause or an arbitration clause, especially when it's a cross-border transaction. So I guess be it corporate or litigation lawyer, knowledge of arbitration law is very, very important.
Talking about involvement of law students in arbitration, what advice would you have for law students who wish to take up arbitration as a part of their career? And along with that, what kind of skill set best suits the field of arbitration?
Okay, there are a lot of things you can do. Not just field of arbitration, but practice of law itself. As law students, of course, you have your own curriculum. You need to do your exams. You need to prepare. You need to attend classes. But if you ask me as to what you need to do if you want to be a successful arbitration practitioner or go to the path to that, I guess the first thing is, of course, knowledge of arbitration. So you need to definitely, if you have a compulsory module on arbitration, then you obviously have to do it. But not law, or arbitration is probably not, international arbitration is not a compulsory module in probably all law schools for that matter. So I guess the first thing is to take that as an optional subject and gain knowledge of arbitration law, because you need to be good on your basics. But that's the first point. The second is, of course, there are a lot of opportunities now to participate in seminars, because most seminars on arbitration or any legal field for that matter have a special discount for students. So you can, as students, go and attend seminars and hear the views of experts and lawyers in the field. So you get to gain a lot of knowledge when you attend such seminars. The third, of course, is very important in my view, is to, if you are interested in arbitration, is to do the moot court, which is of course very famous. The international arbitration moot is the WIS moot, which happens in Vienna every year around April. And also there is a WIS East moot taking place in Hong Kong. There's usually the same problem. So I guess it's an international sale of goods and some arbitral institutions. So I think that would be the perfect thing to do the WIS moot. Or I don't know whether there are any national arbitration moots in India. If there are, you should definitely try and do that. So that, you prepare yourself, you do the research, you also argue. When you do that, it's a fantastic experience. For example, public international law, the Jessup moot is a fantastic thing to go to, because if you're going to be doing investment treaty arbitrations in future, it's very important for you to have knowledge of public international law and just not commercial arbitration for that matter. So I guess doing moots is a very good thing. And another important thing is to write articles. If you want to be in arbitration practice, it's not enough if you're able to have a very good skill to present yourself, present the case. But I think most of the work in an arbitration is done in writing. You need to write your pleadings, you need to prepare witness statements, you need to prepare your opening submissions, you need to prepare your closing submissions after the hearing. So I guess your writing skills is important. One good way to start that is to, of course, write articles and get it published in good journals if possible. and also do internships, if possible, with lawyers. And one thing which is extremely important in my view, I don't know, many may not, I don't know whether others agree with me, is that it is also important for an arbitration lawyer to have enough experience and knowledge of how the litigation process works. Especially in common law countries, you go to court for interim measures of protection, sometimes you got to go to court for recourse against awards, okay, court support is important. So you cannot say, I'm just going to be doing arbitration and not going to go to court. You need to have that knowledge. You may then branch off to become a full-time arbitration practitioner, but knowledge of that is important. And litigation, the only way to get knowledge is to go and be on the ground and go to court and understand the process. So I think that's really important. In my view, I think all this combined together is what you should be doing as students. When I mean court, I mean go and follow the lawyer, watch proceedings and all that. The other thing about what skill sets you would need, I think two. One is, of course, your written skills, for which I told you need to do articles and other kind of assistant legal opinions and all that. The other thing is, of course, your presentation skills. You must be able to talk well and present well, which I guess the skills would be enhanced when you do moot courts.
And apart from organizing moots and seminars, what can a law school do in order to generate interest in the field of arbitration?
See, I think it's already a very, if the law school is organizing seminars and moot courts, I think that itself, in my view, is a lot of work that a law school is doing to enhance, knowledge of students in the field of arbitration. I think one other thing a law school could do, which I'm sure many national law schools these days do, and other law schools also follow suit, is to have a fantastic library. Invest in an excellent law library. Law library is there, but in the field of arbitration. For example, you get the top books on arbitration, you get the top journals, you get to, have online resources. Like for example, Kluwer is a very good source for international arbitration. So, having subscriptions to those kind of resources would really be useful to the students, especially if you're having, LLB students, of course, if you're having students doing LLM programs, or if you have research scholars doing PhDs, I think these sources can be extremely useful.
Sir, you have been a part of the arbitration community for a long time now. What do you feel about the state of arbitration law in India today? And what do you think could be done to reshape the arbitration regime in our country?
See, of course, I don't, I'm now practicing outside of India, but I do come to India very often, and I think India is a great jurisdiction, first, I should say that. And here, you've got several stakeholders. It's a huge country. There's so much of backlog. That's because of the sheer number of litigations that are going on in the country. But if you ask me about arbitrations, you should also talk about arbitration-related litigation. So it's a lot of docket explosion that's happening in the country. I think in terms of arbitration, the main thing is to get a bigger pool of arbitrators. I think that's the first thing we need to do, because there aren't that many full-time arbitrators here in the country. So for which I think a lot of training needs to take place. The way it happens in most countries is people are trained to be arbitrators. You cannot just go and say, hey, I'm going to be an arbitrator. You need to be trained to be one. For example, in Singapore, you need to do some exams. For example, you'll have to either pass the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators award writing exam or the Singapore Institute of Arbitrators award writing exam to get a fellowship of either of those institutes. And only if you're a fellow, you'll be admitted to the panel, or you'll be considered to be on the panel of, for example, the Singapore International Arbitration Center. So that's what happens in Singapore. In India, I think Chartered Institute of Arbitrators has started an India branch. So I guess once the training programs goes in full swing and there are more people trained as full-time arbitrators, I guess the pool of arbitrators will increase, and that I think should be the first step to improve the speed. So you need to have people who can do arbitrations on a full-time basis. Though they may have a litigation practice or whatever, they must be willing to do a kind of a full-fledged hearing throughout the week. So I think everybody has to contribute to this process, and I think it will definitely happen. It's only a question of time. because it is a long process, but I think it's definitely going to be changed in India, I guess.
Since it was your first visit in Gujarat National Law University, we would like to ask you this question. How was your overall experience here at Gujarat National Law University?
I think it was fantastic, if I can put it in one single word. I mean, I've been here for the past 2 days. I brought back a lot of good memories of my own law school days when we had organized competitions and seminars. I think I think for the students, of course, when you organize such events, it is, one thing is, of course, gaining knowledge of arbitration, but here you're doing so many other things like, for example, fetching guests from the airport, arranging facilities for their stay, making sure the food is organized, making sure the mic works, the PowerPoint is loaded. All this is management skills, because as lawyers these days, you need not, I mean, it's not necessary just that, it's not enough if you just know what the law is. You need to have management skills, because you need to manage your practice, you need to manage your accounts, you need to manage your juniors, you need to pay them the salary, you need to have a clerk, you need to pay your driver. So one aspect is financial management, the other aspect is, of course, managing your practice. So I think these organizing skills that you gain out of conducting such events will go a long way, not just in your professional but also in your personal life, because I think till now students are protected at home, you go to school, your parents are there, and you come to a university, and here also maybe you have a very good environment to study. But when you organize something, only then you realize how difficult things can get. So I think I think you guys have done a fantastic job. I think all credit goes to you for the success of this conference. And you've invited some very good speakers. And I guess the overall experience for me personally, both as a speaker, I spoke this morning, as well as attending this, most of the conference I managed to attend. I think it was superb. And congratulations on the success of this conference.
Thank you, sir.